G'day, my name's James and welcome to another episode of the Oz F1 Show. In this episode, we are reviewing the Portuguese Grand Prix. And I'm joined by my friends and yours at this early hour in the morning from the Soviet South. It's Tommy T and Campy. Hello, lads.
G'day.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Well, you guys are doing pretty well because you've got your Lakeside Drive mugs and full of delicious coffee. The best coffee in the world is made by Tommy T. There is no doubt about that.
Yes.
I reckon Little Rebel's pretty good.
You would too. If that doesn't give us a specific location and industry to be doing banter of, I don't know what it is. Boys, Portugal, the track of the roller coaster, basically, was a very interesting race. Thank goodness for no red flags. I got to say that.
Yeah, I'm not used to it.
I was praying for one when Danny Rick was in fifth place, though. Went long, super long,
Safety
great
car would have
pace.
been awesome.
Oh, how good would it have been? Unfortunately, it didn't happen. You know what I loved about this race more than
Go
anything? The helicopter shots.
Yeah.
If you go back to that episode we recorded of the Suzuka Grand Prix way back in the start of the year that we haven't done anything with, do you remember the camera shots from that Grand Prix from the helicopter?
They were lunatics, the old
Couldn't
helicopter
even
drivers.
get it on the car. And it was shaking like they were in a bloody hurricane or something. But these ones, it was great. I thought some of the camera work was brilliant.
Yeah, and
Good
also
to watch.
the looking at the helicopter coming up over, what was it, 6 or something, there's just a shot back up.
Into the hairpin.
And the helicopter coming up and over the top.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing. I think the helicopter pilot is the same person each time around, but whoever it is, just amazing flight. It's like just constantly being in a Top Gear episode and just, waiting for the boys to say like, it's getting very close.
Yeah.
I reckon that's the job you want if you're in F1 full time.
You reckon that, or would you go safety car driver?
Nah. Helicopter driver all day.
I would not let you drive a helicopter.
Why not? Why not?
Do I need any more evidence?
I'm competent. I've done a solo flight by myself.
In a helicopter.
Please refer back to the rest of this podcast archive as to why you shouldn't be behind a helicopter.
I keep telling you guys, I'm like just playing a role on here. I'm just playing the fool. Playing the dunce.
playing the dunce.
Playing.
Yeah. Being authentic as the dunce is not the same thing as playing.
Good morning to you too, fellas.
Lads, we had a good pre-drinks podcast. If you haven't yet listened to that and you wanted to listen to see what we sort of thought would happen, please go back and listen to that one first. But I thought, lads, we should start at the very back of the grid with, I'm not even sure why this person is here. Nikita Mazepin finished in 19th and even got a 5-second penalty for holding up Sergio Perez when Perez was leading. So he came last by an extra 5 seconds.
Can we stop referring to him by his name and just call him the Russian driver?
Yeah, well, he can't even be called Russian,
That
can he? It's
sucks.
like, Russian Automotive Federation is the neutral banner that he's flying. So he's just RAF.
Raf.
Look, he was terrible. Future world champion, Mr. Williams thinks.
Nope.
He's clearly been listening to this podcast and going, these guys make outlandish statements all the time.
I'll try that.
At least he apologised like a man afterwards and didn't carry on over the radio like he has previously. So it was good. Give him a thumbs up for that. He took full responsibility. And
You are being positive this podcast.
I like it.
And trying to find something for him, which is interesting.
No, he's a dud.
tastes
Needs
like
to go.
vinegar coming out of my mouth too. It's tough.
But his teammate, who's only there for marketing reasons, Mick Schumacher, doing an incredible job against Latifi, finishing ahead of him, in fact, in 17th. We actually saw a little bit of Schumacher, the TV director, the segment that is dead for Tommy T from last year in TV review. But the TV director, at least at the back of the pack, wasn't doing such a bad job.
No. We got to see him for once, which is good, but I was surprised actually because we had such a long track that we actually didn't get a lot of lapped cars, which was nice for a change.
I think we did. I think we just didn't see as many.
Towards the very end, usually it's about lap 20.
For Nicholas Latifi, normally it's lap
Dominance.
3.
Yes.
Yeah, Mick had a strong weekend. Unfortunately, he's in the worst car on the grid, so we're not going to see a lot of him. But he's smashing his teammate, like
But I don't know if that's...
convincingly.
Don't know if that's saying that much because that guy's a squid.
Yeah,
But you're right.
Staying on my positive frame of mind, he won F3, he won F2, and now he's in F1. And he was a good driver in all of those. Callum Ilott actually got a gig on.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that yesterday.
Practice one.
Yeah.
On Friday, and he was He was superb. He was really good, actually.
Yeah.
So I actually think Ilott probably should have had the drive.
He just doesn't have enough cash.
Well, well, money
He's a
walks.
better driver. He doesn't have
Yep.
cash, though.
Yeah, well, let's get cynical now. Ilott was really good, but Schumacher had a great weekend.
He
He's
did.
really solid. Good for him to get some experience driving around some
Yep.
other cars for a bit more than just the first couple of
Yeah,
laps.
and as you say, I mean, the fact that he's in the worst car up in the grid, and I think Williams has sort of come a long way, and especially against Latifi, who was challenging Russell for most of the race as well. It was good to see Schumacher just, a couple of seconds ahead or behind rather than, a full lap back, basically, 59, 60 seconds to Mazepin. It was absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk about Williams, otherwise known as Alpine if you're David Croft, because apparently you can't tell the difference between the two of these cars.
Colorblind.
Which is a bit ridiculous. Campy, your thoughts on Williams this weekend?
Russell, good qualifying, very solid. Thought they'd be in the hunt for the points, but he was rubbish. He clearly set that car up for one lap, and I don't mind them trying that one lap, see if they can hang with it, get a good strategy. But it was clear after 10 laps that setup was not for the race. I think Latifi beat him in the end and passed him a couple of times. I mean, they swapped positions in the pit stop phases.
Latifi didn't. Latifi came 18th and George came 16th. But for a lot of the race, George was not in a positive position.
Right.
Yeah, Latifi passed him on track, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, at one stage he did. So they stopped a couple of times each as well. So
Yeah.
Which is classic for back markers.
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with their strategies. I think they're just trying to. They're still a glorified test team, in my opinion. But they're not. They're not as good as I thought they were going to be this year. I thought they'd make a big jump, but they really haven't been pushing the likes of the Alfa Romeo, which they probably would have been targeting this year. So
Yeah, and Tommy T, I think, they said that coming into Bahrain for testing, George was saying that this is our focus, is Alfa Romeo and looking further up the grid. And even in Bahrain and the first qualifying session, they looked really good.
Yeah.
He looked really good, but it seems like a lot of hot air, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I wonder if it's what Campy's saying is they're so focused on getting into Q3. That's their goal in qualifying, that they've just sacrificed Sunday and they just can't get a car that's going to work for the 66 laps. So
could be technical for his. It could be tactical. Sorry, for his career too. We know this kid can drive over one pace. We know he's good in qualifying, but he just wants to set that car alight and make it the optics from outside, that he's really driving outside of that car. From a television view standpoint, because we don't really talk about them or see them. That could be a reason.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point. Let's talk about Alfa Romeo.
He's got zero personality, though.
didn't like his apology.
That interview he did on the track with Norris was, I was like, dude, show me something.
We're back to this.
Make me want to like you. Don't be so British and like squid like, More of the same from over there.
Yeah. That was a terrible interview
Sorry.
and such a wasted opportunity from Sky
it was,
Sports.
wasn't
What
it?
the hell are you guys talking about? And also, they cut so much out of it. You can tell when the weather is so totally different from each shot. It's like, oh, it's sunny. Now it's really overcast. Oh, there's Alfa Romeo standing behind. Now there's no one standing behind them. It's like, how long were you there for?
Ta-da.
What content did you cut out? Guys, hurry up. Be better. Anyway, let's talk about Alfa Romeo. Kimi Räikkönen, as you said, Campy, before we finished, did not have all of his attention on the track.
No, he was flicking with switches and playing with some modes, and he just didn't even realise he ran up the backside of his teammate, which is a shame. He was they were looking good. Giovinazzi was competitive.
Yep.
They were never going to get in the points. But again, Raikkonen's had a better 3 races than what Giovinazzi's had this year. And it's a shame because I think Raikkonen would have got ahead and then ultimately, put a bit more pressure on the Gasly's. I think Gasly was ahead of Danny Rick and Alonso at the time. So, it would have been interesting to see how they went, but it was a shame for him.
Because especially considering last year the mega drive that he put into this track, and yes, it was slightly wet then, but the same thing happened again in terms of tyres not turning on as quickly, and we saw the heroes of the sport, if you will, Seb and Alonso and Lewis and Max being able to turn them stuff on, those tyres on with experience, and I mean he is the most experienced out there. So really,
and he was starting to do the same thing. Unfortunately, he just did that on the pit straight.
Yeah. And Tommy, I was surprised to not see any damage to Giovinazzi. When you saw the onboard from Raikkonen, it almost looked like there was sparks coming out the left rear of Giovinazzi. It's like, okay, well then they've buggered both of them.
No, I think it was just a clean hit on that rear tyre, so luckily no puncture and he could just continue. No body damage whatsoever.
Super lucky.
Yeah, and it looked like where Raikkonen's wing actually touched the wheel was sort of in the middle where those...
Middle of tyre,
Not on the edges where the... I
Yep.
can't remember what they call them for the life of me.
Edges.
Sidewalls? The side... they've got I can't remember.
Good.
It's
Lucky
too
you're
early.
our technical reporter on tech.
Thanks.
I'm good at the tech. I just,
You
stumble.
can't figure out his mic tech because he keeps cutting out. Do that.
It's cutting out because it's a shit lead, Tommy.
Stop playing with it then.
Yeah, I know. Bloody hell.
Continue. Talking about tyre tech, Campy.
Well,
It was good.
it was good. Good recovery. At 5:44 in the morning. Giovinazzi. Look, I think that car... Interesting you say...
He's pretty solid, man.
That you say, Campy, that they were never going to be in the points because for a while, the midfield is so close and they are very good at... And Giovinazzi, rather, is getting better at picking up the scraps and the mistakes of the bottom of the mid-pack, so to speak.
Yeah.
And 10th and 9th are, able to be had by them. We saw that last time around. And as you said, Kimi's taking the FIA to court to try and get those 2 points back from last time around. But Giovinazzi's growing more and more and more.
Yep.
But Callum Ilot's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Giovinazzi's one of those drivers for me. I didn't know he was a paid driver until literally about 3 weeks ago when I saw a video on YouTube on it. I think they called it the low-key paid driver. The thing for me is when you're in these junior teams, you need to be setting the track a lot. You need to be getting some, in your first 2 years, you need to be getting 3 or 4 results that are far outperforming your car every year. But you need to get the media along with you, hyping you up and talking about you constantly, so that your stocks go up within the sport. And Giovinazzi for me hasn't done that. Yes, he's been pretty consistent with Kimi after his first year for the last 2 years, but he's not someone that is generating the headlines like he should be, and that's probably because of his car. I mean, he's Italian too. A lot of what we get is British anyway, so they're not going to hype up Italians like they would. But he just doesn't seem to be. His name is not being put in the right places. I think Ilott would probably deserve that drive moving forward.
Well, and I mean, he's another English guy, right? So in terms of the attention given from at least the broadcast that we get is amazing. Thanks. And my coffee brought to me. Amazing.
Hey, Claire.
Aston Martin. Let's talk about them because we were excited for Seb Vettel going into 10th, and we were like, great, he's outperformed his teammate, and then nothing.
No.
I think Vettel would have got in the points if he had have had all the upgrades on the car.
Potentially. Well, those upgrades weren't doing anything for Stroll.
I was
He
going to
sucked.
say Stroll ended up in 14th.
That is a great point.
Yeah, he was struggling to get out of the back. He couldn't make any moves in a car that's supposed to be as good as
Context
it
is
is.
important. Can I just throw in there?
That's what she said.
That is the context.
But-
yes.
Thanks, Kevy.
We need to have a chat.
Subtle as a sledgehammer. Sick. He was really struggling to get through the back of the field back to where he should have qualified. So I don't know what's going on. He seems like the kind of guy that needs to qualify well and just stay there.
Campy.
Seb could run the race pace for the first 15 laps, but after that, it died off and it dropped away, and you seen him getting
Tire
past.
killer.
Yeah, which that tells me that the car and the way it's designed is not using the tyres like they should.
Yeah.
And they're pushing just to do what every other midfield team is doing as a standard lap.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Does that make sense?
This is
Yeah.
sort of going back to Force India, like in terms of the rise and fall, the roller coaster that team has had. You know, back when Perez was Force India rather, and driving earlier in that time, they were doing amazing things, and then rules change, and then they fall away again. And unfortunately for Seb, you've seen this is starting to go down the roller coaster kind of vibe right now, which is a shame for him, quite honestly. But what I was also going to say is, Campy, I think this ties in very well with your Lance is not consistent theory.
No.
Yeah.
No. That theory, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, is Lance will outperform the car 1 week and then he won't do it again for 4 races.
Yeah.
And the problem within those 4 races before he outperforms the car again is that he'll be on the pace for qualifying, but his race pace won't be there. And it just seems like, there's just zero consistency in what he does.
Yeah, and it just is so annoying. I just don't like it's just not a vibe for me. Let's talk about Alpine, because Alpine were bloody good this weekend. I didn't think they were going to be midway through the race. I was like, nah, they did pretty well in practice, and Corley was okay, but they've sort of fallen away again. Fernando Alonso, get out of my way, including at Danny Rick, which was a bit sad.
How
but
good.
Campy, he stomped.
He stormed home on those hards, which makes a lot of sense because Renault. They were really good on the medium and hard compound tyres last year when Danny Rick was driving it. So it looks to me like Fernando Alonso really found that setup that Danny Rick had last year in that car, and he stormed home. Now, I think he came from about 13th back to 8th once he put those hard tyres back on. And once he passed Danny Rick and Carlos Sainz, there was about a 9-second gap with 10, 11, 12 laps to go. And he was coming home, and he finished about 3/4 of a second behind his teammate in Ocon.
Yeah.
So that says to me, Alonso's figured out this car. He's just got to get his 1 lap stuff right, which he has done throughout his whole career. And it's good to see. I think, he's made up that difference in learning that car. He's made a big step from last weekend to this weekend.
Big time. It was impressive to see him back doing what he does well. I think he was probably disappointed in himself with his qualifying because he knew that car had pace, and they'd shown that in practice, especially when you see where Ocon qualified. To be honest, you're probably a bit more disappointed that Ocon couldn't keep that position. He dropped back a few, I'm pretty sure. So...
Yeah, but Ocon he fell victim to where he was in the race pack. You know, it was Norris, both Ferraris, and Ocon, and they were sort of in a procession the whole Grand Prix. Now, when those cars are so tight and so quick, it becomes like a DRS train. It's a bit like on the Grand Prix, on the virtual stuff, on the video game. Sometimes you see it. They just can't pass or do anything because the cars are so evenly matched.
And everyone's on DRS.
If you push... You're burning out tyres or you're heating something, your temperature's going up. And then if you save your battery up for a lap, it really doesn't change too much because of all the other things going in the car. So I think he was subject to those circumstances. But if the roles had been reversed and Alonso was in that position, I think Alonso would have made moves towards the end of the race. That Ocon couldn't do.
Yeah, there's no,
against better opposition.
there's no doubt to me that he's back in terms of he's had a couple of years out of the car or out of our Formula One car. It's not taken him long to get his sort of mind around this Alpine, and certainly he's a better driver than Ocon. I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt about that. But Ocon had some glimpses this weekend,
However,
to be honest.
Yeah.
Tommy?
Yeah, Ocon outperformed Danny Rick in qualifying once last year, so he is going to have a race where he's better than Alonso this year.
Yeah. He qualified well. I think he's got a year up on that car as well. You've got to remember that.
Yeah, totally. I was being smart.
And we know that Renault drives different according to Danny Rick. So there is going to be that learning curve.
Yeah.
But Alonso is a champ and knows what he's doing, so he'll figure it out.
But again,
quick.
I mean, that whole team still doesn't quite make a lot of sense to me. The Alpine, no Cyril, there's no designated team principal. They've got Campy, some MotoGP dude who was responsible for Valentino Rossi.
It's French,
or something.
it's a committee.
It's your favourite sport, MotoGP. I've even had to create a sub-channel in Discord for you lot to bloody talk about it. Imagine, anyway.
Just before we move on, big shout out to Jack Miller and the fans in Townsville. I'm sure they had a very big last night. Jack Miller got his second win in MotoGP last night, but his first one was his first win in 2016 was when it was rain affected. This was the first dry race he won, and he's been under pressure a bit like Danny Rick has, and came out and he thumped the field last night. It was great to watch.
Wow.
Superstar, just a lad too.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
cool.
Yeah.
What was that?
You guys
Something
are-
about dry motorbiking.
You guys are ignorant. Our fans like MotoGP just as much.
Someone
as Formula
motorbiked
One.
better than someone
Whoever
else.
the guy is who is now in for,
Fucking just go and play basketball, you
for
pussy.
Alpine.
Let's just get touched and flop and die. At least play basketball in the 90s when it was good. Not in 2020 when you can't even bloody watch it without what it's like watching bloody Biden on a stage, you muppet. Jeez.
Anyway, my point was...
Bron thinks he's the
My
goat.
point was there's
Says he
some
is.
MotoGP
Oh, who says
dude.
that?
Davide, some kind of name, who he's now he came along to Alpine and they were like, I don't know, was it Quali or something? They hyped up this interview that Paul Di Resta had to leave the commentary box to go and do this interview, and it was terrible. They're like, so what are you bringing from MotoGP to this? Not much.
There's more wheels in this formula.
Double
It's
the
different.
wheels. Great. Wow. What a time to be alive. Anyway, I don't think he's having any influence at all on the team. I think it's Fernando and it's the legacy of Danny Rick.
Yes.
Well, we got an interesting look into Renault as an operation. Great interview with Mr. Italiano. I wasn't there, but I did watch it as a fan. But he was saying when they were in Renault, it was Danny Rick that was constantly building them up, saying, "Yes, we are good enough and we can do this." Whereas moving into a McLaren and coming from a Red Bull, it's sort of ingrained in what they do. Everyone's there to win, and they didn't need
They know
that
what winning is.
motivation. So, well, it's easy when you know what winning is too, but Renault as an organisation are still trying to figure that out and get that culture in it. Now, I think Cyril was the right man for the job, but I didn't like to see him go. But that's just interesting to hear the perspectives from the inside about what the team culture's like, and they just may be suffering from a bit of their culture issues as I take a pot shot from over here in Australia. So.
Let's talk about AlphaTauri, boys. AlphaTauri, AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda, not exactly maybe living up to the expectations that everyone had. Campy?
Nah, he's not. Nah, he's not.
A couple of rookie mistakes here and there. He did have a good on-track pass around the hairpin.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool, but
I mean,
still very young, very...
After race one, we had really high expectations.
We did.
for him. And 2 races later, or 3 races, whatever we're in now, I can't remember. He hasn't lived up to the expectation, but he'll only get better throughout the year.
Yeah.
You've got to give these guys
Here we
at
go.
least 10 or... You've got to
6
give them
or 7
at least
races.
Half
At least 7, 8, 9 races.
the season. You know, we're probably a bit nicer on him these days just because of our culture.
What does that even mean?
He wouldn't have had but 20 years ago, if he had driven like this 4 races, they would have outed him
you're
straight
not
away.
wrong.
Get out. You've had your chance. You've failed. In our culture in these day and age, like they make the decision, they commit to him for the whole year. So realistically, they're going to give him half a year before they actually start looking at his performances on track, off track, how he's setting up the car, and make a decision for the future. Which I think we should go back to a bit of old school, a bit of cutthroat.
He's definitely not the worst rookie though. So
No, he's
Far
not.
from it.
he's got that going for
Far
him.
from it.
But you got to remember, he's keeping Honda happy at the moment.
Yeah.
So
That's it. I think Gasly's just making him look worse as well because Gasly is doing well. However, this is probably not the points finish they were hoping for. They were probably hoping a bit higher. I think it's just how it shook out with the pit stops. And to be honest, if McLaren didn't stuff up their pit stop, Danny Rick probably would have been another spot above.
Imagine that. Imagine just not stuffing up a pit stop. That was as I said. Well,
Well,
4.5 seconds.
well, to be honest, and we'll talk about it, but it looks like he overshot his
no,
pit
he can't do
Just
anything wrong.
must
It
do
must
it.
be Seb's. Seb Vettel's pit crew has just moved across to McLaren for that one stop, or
Then
Valtteri
they
Bottas's
followed
pit
across
crew.
to-
It's the same crew. They just put different colours on each time. Let's talk about Gasly. Tommy T, he didn't really have an amazing weekend. This track potentially not the the best track for them, but they were kind of just in no man's land for most of it.
Yep, nothing. He is qualifying really well though this year. I think he's got to get a lot of credit for that because that car is better, but it's still not competing with the McLaren and the other kind of top of the midfield. It's kind of right in the middle to bottom of the midfield, and he's really qualifying well considering. He just can't do anything on a Sunday really, unless he's lucky. He does like to take those risks, and he will get some results because of that, but he kind of needs something like a safety car to happen at an opportune time. Otherwise, he's kind of just stuck in 10th. It's kind of his inevitability.
Hypothetical for you. What organisation outside of Red Bull takes a punt on Gasly?
The French one.
I don't think they do though.
Well, whatever they decide to call themselves next year, they'll just change it again.
I don't think Renault. I don't think they will
Fiat.
because if you like, there was so much conversation about this leading from preseason, but now if you actually look at the younger talent they've got, like Oscar Piastri, and yes, okay, Australian, so we're biased, but already what he's showing in F2, it would be cheaper for them dollars wise, and budget cap is important to consider for all of this stuff these days as well, to look at their younger program and see who they can promote, because realistically I don't think they pull in a Red Bull guy, and we know that Gasly's not going back to Red Bull actual, so maybe he's a bit in no man's land as a result of that, Campy. Maybe he's that Ericsson.
Is he like a Kvyat where he's stuck inside that Red Bull fold and he's not going to get out of it because of the tainted experience that he had in the top team?
I think it's going to be more like that. The only alternative is if Sebastian does retire, or Kimi, or maybe the Haas seats open up. Things like that. He's not going to get to a better team than what he's currently
So
in.
more of like a Kevin Magnussen kind of stepping sideways.
Yes. Yeah, he'll be kind of what Sergio Perez was until the last couple of years.
K-Mag and Grosjean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, just kind of
Very
float.
competent
Yeah.
in the right car, but just don't cut it when it
Yeah.
at that
Which
next
is a
level.
shame, really, because, the fact how he bounced back from that massive disappointment from that 6 month in the Red Bull, but at least he's still got an F1 drive. It's still better than Albon, who's crying in DTM.
Yeah.
True.
Which is unfortunate. But anyway, look, I think you're right. But I don't think he's going to Renault. That's for sure.
Renault.
Ferrari have pace again, which is actually really good to see, to be perfectly honest.
Yes.
And they're a little bit more competitive against McLaren this time around. Carlos Sainz finishing in 11th and Charles Leclerc finishing in 6th. Carlos, though, I think driving so well.
Yeah.
And better than Charles.
You mentioned yesterday, Campy, he did really well, and you made the call very early that he was going to outshine Leclerc. I think it was just luck this time on what tyre allocation and how they did the pit stops.
Well, Ferrari took the punt trying to get the undercut on Norris way too early. He did it 5 or 6 laps too early, which ultimately compromised his race, which meant he dropped out of the points. He just had no pace on that tyre in the last 10 or so laps, which was a shame. But what happened? I missed what happened at the start because he was right up there with Norris.
He did so well.
He was in front of Norris.
He was on the softer comp
at the start. What did he have a mistake where he went off track and then dropped back again, or I missed it?
Norris,
Carlos.
No, I'm talking Sainz because he was in 3rd or 4th at the start of the race, and then there was something happened, and he got shuffled back to
literally
7th.
I think it was just on the restart, and then just pace. He just didn't have it to continue.
And literally
on.
track position. Oh. So just putting, having other cars around him, putting in better positions than him on the track, because those softs did fire up faster. But as you say, Tommy, as soon as the safety car came out, which wasn't too long, I think the advantage was kind of lost, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right, Campy, though. In terms of him firing up and quickly, the dude's got it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that car suits him. I think we said this yesterday, a lot better than other new drivers in new teams suiting that car.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the 3 guys, like your Alonso, your Danny Rick, and your Sainz, new to the teams who we've been giving a bit more extra credit and time to get used to the cars. Free passes, that's what I'm looking for.
Seb doesn't get a pass, does he?
No. He's got 4 world championships. He shouldn't need one.
Alonso's got
that's
2.
half.
Be like Jordan. He's got 6 championships and LeBron's got 4.
Here we go.
Jordan doesn't need a pass. LeBron needed 5 to get there. So,
the Oz F1 MotoGP NBA show.
I mean, those 3 have seemed to pick up the race pace side of things this weekend and been on par, and if not better than their teammates this weekend. But shame for Sainz. Leclerc, I don't know what I think.
Does Leclerc things? He's just solid, man.
Yeah,
he's reliable.
He's lightning over one lap.
Yep. I think he's kind of grown out, like we saw Maximus Verstappen grow out of his childish kind of things. Not that Leclerc had as many, but he was getting pretty petulant with Seb, pretty tic-tacky kind of stuff, and now he's just reliable guy. We saw things like at Monaco when he just threw the toys out of the cot when he didn't qualify well and just rode his day off, or things like I think it was around the Red Bull Ring when he did similar, but now he's just bringing it home really consistently. He's qualifying well. He's racing well. He's not really taking risks and putting it further ahead, but he's just bringing home solid points, which is probably what Ferrari want after the last season they had.
Yeah, and I think also, and this sort of ties into McLaren, who we'll talk about now as well, but the attitude that he's taken, as in Charles taken, Lando seems to have taken at the same time. Like Lando has stepped up, and even Zach said it, from Abu Dhabi last year to now, Lando's stepped it up in terms of his performance. And, he even said as well, attitude off track, Campy's happy about this, less Twitch streaming, less gaming, and more focusing on driving, which is absolutely the right attitude. And I think, 2020 is different and whatever, but it's good and is showing for both the young guys. It's kind of just a shame that George Russell doesn't have the sort of same car to prove that similar kind of attitude. Not that he showed it last weekend, but anyway. But Lando, though, still stunning. And an amazing performance this time around as well, sticking in 5th. I think he's outperforming the car, Campy, don't you?
Well, no, I don't. I think McLaren is the 3rd best car on the grid at the moment. So I don't think they've got the pace to beat, like straight up, they don't have the pace to beat the Red Bulls or the Ferraris. So 5th is where...
Ferraris?
Sorry.
I know you meant.
You got, and Mercedes. So 5th is where he needs to be realistically.
Yeah.
And if you look who was behind him, you had Ocon behind him, you had Leclerc behind him, and Alonso, then his teammate. So clearly it's the best of the rest. So I think that's where he should be performing. I don't think he nailed his qualifying like he would have wanted to this weekend.
Yeah.
But, keep getting 5th, 3rd best car on the grid. It's where you should be, really.
Yeah.
They're going to drop off. this season too, because they've spent all their upgrades just getting the car to the grid. So they need to bank points early, and we'll just see them slowly drift off towards the end of the year.
And then the focus will shift to next regs, next year, all those kind of things as well.
And that's what you said, Campy. You know, it's there's no world championship this year for Danny Rick in the McLaren. So whilst it's nice for him to get some good results, and he actually performed pretty well this on the race day, from 16th to 11th, 10th by lap, just after the safety car, lap 7, 8, was pretty good as a drive, and had other strong midfield cars around him too. And that was our biggest concern, was just being able to get past cars with similar kind of aero packages and stuff as well. So, yeah, I mean, 5th and 9th is good for McLaren, but they, as you say, they kind of need more sooner. And whilst Andreas and Zach are still just totally stoked to have Danny Rick in the team, and no surprises there at all. And even Danny saying, oh yeah, I spoke to Andreas. He's like, just chill, dude. You got a couple more races. Well, actually, he doesn't really have that many more races.
Yeah. No, I think we're pretty harsh because we love Danny so much and we want him to do well. But if you look back, he's had 3 points finishes in 3 races. I think that's a good start. Whether they're as high as they should be, up for debate. But to be honest, as long as he's consistently getting better and better, that's all they're going to ask for.
The thing I noticed this weekend was, unlike the first couple of races, his race pace was
So much
better
better.
than Norris's. And he was able to move up the field. We saw he was on lap 40 or whatever it was on the mediums, still on his first stint, running the same times and quicker than the cars behind him that his relative pace towards. He didn't have the pace to jump them, but his pace was better than what Norris's was, and he's consistently gaining on him.
Yeah.
And that's where Danny Rick's big strength is, in his racecraft and his race strength. So that was good to see. That's the difference we made up from last week and this week. And unfortunately, qualifying for him really ruined his race weekend. But if he hadn't have been passed by Alonso storming home, P8 would have been a bloody good result for him. We would have been sitting there going, right, here we go. Another 10 more laps, and he would have been in P6 behind his teammate. So that's what I was stoked to see. The 10, 12 seconds he finished behind his teammate was all lost because of where he started. So I'm happy he's picked his game up. I reckon maybe not next weekend, but the race after that, he'll be 100% flying. He'll be beating Lando week in, week out.
Yeah. To be honest, was it a blessing in disguise to have to start so far back? So he had to do some on-track passing and make some moves rather than just starting high and trying to maintain high. He actually had to get back to some old Danny Rick kind of stuff with some passes on track.
And it just gives him more experience, doesn't it, in terms of how to drive this car in this, with all of the stuff that we spoke about yesterday, and how he wants the development to start moving in a direction that suits him better. To be able to pass as many cars as he did with, similar kind of midfield tightness is a good thing to say, all right, this is where his skills are at. So, look, I'm still stoked that McLaren are still doing as well as they are. Let's hope that it maintains at least to the summer break before they start dropping off. Let's talk about Red Bull, because I was very happy for Sergio Perez to lead as many laps as he did. It wasn't quite the rear gunner that I think, Tommy, we were still waiting for, but...
I mean, he was there, but he was a long way back.
He put it in 4th, and he has to be happy with that. And Supermax in 2nd. Oh, I'll tell you what, he had a good run at those Mercs at one point within DRS. He was so close to taking and snatching that first.
Yeah. Do you know what? That was probably my favourite part of the race, was when the top 3 were actually competing really closely and overtaking each other. That was actually exciting. We don't see that often. It's first place just runs away with it and then that's the end of the race. We were actually seeing the first 3 drivers shifting places for a good 20 laps.
Yeah, Verstappen's mighty quick. He's way quicker than what Perez is. I think Perez, he's better than the last 3 teammates in Kvyat, Albon and Gasly, but he's still not where Red Bull want him to be. The only thing that's going to keep him in that seat is that he is finishing 4th consistently.
It's minimum requirement there.
Minimum requirement.
Yeah.
And he's doing it with ease at the moment.
Yeah.
In a tighter midfield than what it's been. So And when he has been trapped in the middle of the pack, he's been able to work his way through the cars and get the job
And you know
done.
what we said with Perez? If he was in that situation like he was today leading and there was a safety car, he's going to capitalise because he does that stuff well.
Yeah.
So he was doing the right thing by the team. He was there to take it if it came, but unfortunately no safety car. Danny Rick would have benefited too if that happened, but that would have been awesome.
I think the Honda power unit's not as good as the Merc.
Nah, they were sitting
think-
ducks on the straights like
I think
Max
today,
said.
I think this race proved Mercedes is still the better car.
Yep.
Not by what they have been in the last 2 or 3 years, and the gap is getting smaller every year, but it's still the better car, and I just think ultimately Hamilton goes on to, probably win 13 out of 23 this year. Just the way that guy's driving at the moment is unbelievable. I mean, he passed Max and his teammate on track.
Yeah, that.
It's a shame.
Well, let's talk about Mercedes. Let's talk about VB,
Yeah.
Campy, and Ham.
Well, VB got off to the start.
He did.
First
They
lap.
both started well.
First lap, I think it was 8 tenths. By the second lap, by the time the safety car came out, VB had amassed, a 1.8 second lead.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, after that safety car restart, he didn't fire the tyres up quick enough.
To be
and he
honest,
was-
though, I'd give that a very good score for his restart. The way he set up Hamilton to get away, and Max jumped Lewis as well. So,
but
but you're right, the tyres weren't fired up.
if he had have gone without that yellow flag, safety car, he would have had that buffer to not be in the DRS zone for the whole time.
Yep.
And I think he would have been able to manage the race a lot better outside of that DRS zone.
Couldn't get out of it, could he?
And he couldn't get out of it. He was under pressure from Verstappen, then he was under pressure from Hamilton. And it was a shame to see, but he's got no excuses.
Nope.
If you look at Lewis in that car, he's able to extract pace out of it that Valtteri can't at the moment. It's a shame if it had been on a track like a Barcelona or a Monaco where it's harder to pass. Valtteri wins all day.
Well, if Valtteri didn't get passed by his own teammate, he would have won because they would have been in the opposite situation when they went to pit, and they would have had to pit.
But he
Hamilton first.
still should have had a second.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
Mercedes shit the bed on the pit stop.
Yeah.
It gave him a 3.8 second pit stop or 3.5
behind.
compared to Max
1.9.
Verstappen's 1.9 or something, which is incredible. But that's the difference when he's coming out on cold tyres and he's under pressure.
Yeah.
He can't light those tyres up. Of course, Verstappen's going to
Yeah.
swing it past him. And when he gets throttle happy and makes a mistake because his tyres are cold, he's frustrated. And then when he's in his second stint on the hard tyres, Valtteri's pushing like hell, and then he gets problems in the exhaust and a sensor goes off and he loses power. It's just a shame because he was coming back hard at Verstappen at that time.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating for me because I'm on Team Valtteri this year, but really, it's a 2-horse race between Hamilton and Verstappen.
Big
Thank
time.
goodness, though. At least we've got 2 horses involved this time.
Yes.
And at least one of them's not from Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a fake horse, really. Pony. A Shetland.
Shetland. Has it got wings? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, look, all in all, though, boys,
Or is
Portimao
Is Max a horseman?
Portimao was not a bad race. Definitely worth
I'll give it 3 out of 5.
definitely worth staying up for. I'm not confident that Barcelona this weekend coming is going to be worth staying up for.
Can you say
So,
it correctly?
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Here we go.
Barcelona.
Yeah. Very.
Can I just give a shout out to the shittest national anthem I've ever heard on an
I was
F1
going to
grid?
say,
That was
as
horrible.
Wolfpack, can I just say?
It was
It
not
looked like
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack in terms of just what they were wearing.
They dressed like Wolfpack. They tried to sound like Wolfpack, but
Nothing
that
here.
was horrible. Whoever was in charge of picking that,
Trying to
just quit.
do something new.
Just
something
quit
different.
and resign. I was done.
Fly past, though, had 4 F16s, very close, which was nice. Didn't do a whole lot, though. It was just kind of like a tight see you later over the top. So it was a 5.2 out of 10 for that. And the 0.2, as I said in our Discord, is an extra point only because of whoever's flying the first jet clearly downloaded the DLC for the Call of Duty skin for that thing because it just looked ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, here comes a bright tiger, bloody looking fighter jet. Ridiculous. It's only a COD thing for sure. Let's look at Fantasy League. Would you like to do the sting, Campy?
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know
don't
what
you?
Sting
Okay.
is.
Well, they
Yeah,
normally
you
do
sing it.
Fantasy. There you go.
Fantasy. He's
It
stage
does
right.
put him on the
It's not
spot.
like
No,
you.
he's too busy because
Fantasy.
now it's his moment to shine. Campy, please read out your favourite names from this week.
Well, look, to give this some context, I'm not on the internet. I don't understand this stuff. So the person who was number one, his name's Ross J. He's got the Irish flag. Love the Irish. You know, but this team name is, it's Friday, then it's Saturday, and then Sunday what? These two pricks are laughing. I've got zero idea what that even means.
Delivery is great.
I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Explain it to me. So, is it one of those, like, is that what she said type of moments? Or?
He's got no clue.
I got no idea.
He's got no clue.
Yeah, there's a few
It's
duds
gold.
in here actually. Cars go fast. Lachlan D make it better of it. Yeah.
Campy
your good
calls
ones,
out
Campy.
names.
Here comes the Sonata.
Let me give a shout out to Dave Munnis, who is in fourth, the William John Story Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
Good a lot.
Winnie Reds F1 racing, not bad.
Cries in DTM. Nick B. 10.
Solid.
Love that. That's great. We also in 11th and 12th, both versions of Nikita Mazepin. Nikita Megaspin and Nikita Mazepin. Very good.
Yeah, there's some duds in here.
You got cynical towards the end of the podcast. I love how you started. You're like, we've got to
Yeah, you
remain
were good
positive
before.
and happy. And here we are. People putting in good effort, like Danny Thicado, and just, oh, there's duds. Karen Horner's Tears, for example, 39th. That's really, really great as well.
Well, drunk lumberjacks, I don't even get that.
It looks like you.
Really?
You need to invest in some mirrors,
they're a bit
Campy,
odd.
clearly.
The Canadians and John Paul G, Campy's pool boy. What on earth are you trying to get out there, mate?
And on that
On
note,
that note, in all of the time that he's
No,
had to
look,
prepare to look at all the names, all he's gone, oh, here's one, and the rest of them are crap.
they all suck.
You guys know I don't check this rubbish.
Give me a spell, mate.
How many points did you get
Bed,
this week?
Bath and Bahrain, that was the other one I liked. Very good.
How many points did you get there?
I'm actually doing better than you two.
I got 184 this week. That's
Where are you
good for
sitting,
me.
Tommy? You like 100 out of 100.
Yeah, well, shut up.
I'm still sitting 17,
Yeah.
so I'm going all
How
right.
can I be
I'm
so
going
bad at
Jim.
fantasy?
It's it's
I'm
not,
coming for ya.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim for James. To be honest, I'm not that excited about where I'm at.
For Jamie, just called himself James.
The transformation is complete.
Love it.
Play Warzone and you see James, that's me. And all these people are like, how do I pronounce that? It's mainly New Zealanders. It's all like, how do I pronounce that, bro? Is it Jamie? And I'm like, no, it's just James. There's no S on the end. There's only one of me. And they're like, oh, well, that's kind of broken my mind. a bit, bro.
JAM capital E.
Oh, bro. You apologise.
It can be used with a capital
No,
capital
I love it.
E
It's
or a
great.
3 if you
New
like.
Zealand is the best Warzone players. I'm still yet to try and find Stoffel on Call of Duty. Please at me and play a tag.
It'll happen.
Well, boys, that's the Portuguese Grand Prix. The good news is they are coming thick and
Double
fast
header.
now. We don't have any time really at all to wait before
That's
Spain.
what she said.
before crying in DTM. But thanks so much for being up this early and reviewing this race. And thank you to you. If you enjoyed all of this, do all the stuff that good people do that listen to podcasts and watch on YouTube. And seriously, can I side note, that Michael Italiano interview was very fun to do.
Tip-top.
Not just because Campy wasn't there, but we really enjoyed the chat with him, and a massive shout out to him
He's a legend.
for his time. But he is, if you don't follow Michael Italiano on Instagram, do that, because there's a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff that he's taking of Danny Rick's training and everything else from that. But thank you also for your feedback from that interview. There will be more coming this year, and we might even allow Campy in one of them if he's behaved well enough. But that's it for this episode. We'll see you next time in Spain. Boys, thank you for your time. We'll speak to you soon.